YouTube, it's Brad Phillips. Look at this, a P-47 1.5 meter. Absolutely spectacular. Look how amazing the retracts are on this thing. Yes, it does have a tail retract. Let's show you right now. Look at that gorgeous action, guys. And ordnance drop tanks come off, missiles come off. These ones are glued on, but look at the tail wheel. We don't get a lot of retractable tail wheels, especially not in this size class. Let's show you real quick. So cool. And then of course, steerable like usual. And then spring-loaded oleos on both. So we're gonna put this thing down. CG's marked, everything's ready. This comes equipped with Reflex V2. Have to lay it down careful because look inside that canopy, absolutely to die for canopy. We have finally got some decent weather for flying. And when I say decent, it's still on the cusp of sucking pretty bad because it's terribly cold. Takeoff flaps, throttle cuts off. Here we go, guys. FMS makes this thing. If you want to buy one from the links in the video description below, you'll help support our channel. Full landing flaps, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. And we're gonna take off with takeoff flaps and go right into the sun. So we're in stabilization mode right here. Here goes nothing. 6S out of the gear. That's 50% throttle. No clicks of trim. 6S 5000. 50C calls for a 35 plus. That is 100%. Guys, that thing flies like it's nothing. It is so cool. Couple clicks of trim on the rudder, just kind of working out where it wants to go and how it wants to be. Take off flaps this time on this pass. Bowl time, camera crew. We're gonna go up here and shoot the moon in just a second. Full landing flaps on this pass. We got the wind kind of at us right now. We're flying into it right now. So gorgeous, folks. Hard on the throttle, it's a big plane. I wanna make sure I don't stall it. Hard on the throttle again, into takeoff flaps. And look at that presentation, absolutely gorgeous. Oh my goodness, guys. Doing a roll here. Bringing it around, takeoff flaps. We have really low percentage of deployment. Very low degree. Look at that LED, folks, going right over the biggest LED. Right there. It's not really an LED. Let's go up by the runway quick. Quick, quick. Thank you. Good job. Okay, that was 50% throttle with takeoff flaps. Going up, shooting the moon. So you can see the LED full landing flaps on the way down. Let's slow it. Way down for gear presentation. Look at the slow actuation of those gear. Put absolutely flawless, folks. Out of both, out of the flaps, 50% throttle here coming around. We're gonna go with the wind slightly. Now we're crosswind. Reflex is keeping up with the varied winds. Take off flaps. Hard on the throttle just to get that thing out of the dive. It's a heavier model than some we've flown before. And camera crew and I are gonna work our way about 4 steps toward the house here so that we can, there you go, right there, perfect. Right overhead this time. Absolutely gorgeous, folks. FMS, good job on this one. I'm gonna get a couple clicks of trim to get that nose down just a hair. I feel like you could probably go just a hair nose heavier on this. That 50C pack is slightly heavier than the 30C that we practice on with our unbox build and radio setup. If you'd like to see that, we obviously have that. And we use an Air, it's an Air 820, 8020T going into auto leveling. Okay, just showing you here. Got a little bit of a sway off to the side, 50% throttle, takeoff flaps now, a little bit of nose up, probably because that's about the way it would sit on the ground if you had the wheels down. It's gonna show you the limits on the bank angles. I'm gonna take my hands off the sticks on this pass. Here we go, just kind of forcing it around about 50%. See how it's going up? That's what you expect to kind of see on some of these Reflex, but that thing is, I'm not even really looking, guys. It's scary to do that with the big plane that I really like, but just so you can see, I still am hands off, okay? So we're gonna turn and we're gonna bring it back home. I would not recommend probably flying this in auto leveling a lot. Let's go without stabilizer for a minute. This is no stabilizer, just to show you how the wind is really kicking it. Higher speed pass there, going back into the stabilizer just because I think it makes it look so much better, even though I could fly it without. I don't really like flying without stabilization, guys. And I'm not talking about auto leveling, folks. Don't confuse the two. They are definitely different. And yes, this thing does really like having one click of flaps, meaning my takeoff flap setting is gorgeous and delectable. Up and over and then down the runway. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps, slowing it down, getting into the throttle a little bit just to kind of get a feel for how we can slow this thing down. Oh man, that's fast too. I do not want to do it with the wind landing, but with those clouds blocking the sun, we are just getting some absolutely fantastic shots there. So I want to take a nice sharp turn here, hard on the throttle, keep it from stalling, Brian. There we go, into takeoff flaps. Now we're gonna go with the wind right over here and do a pretend approach. Here's our timer on a 5-minute timer. Nothing special about 5. We do have telemetry on this, but I didn't set up any warnings. That's about 50% throttle. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw the gear. That actually felt pretty good. I know I'm with the wind, but the weird thing is, I almost feel like that was a pretty dang good approach. I like the way it felt. I felt like I had tons of time. Let's see if we can do it here. We're slowing way down here, folks. You may have noticed. Camera crew, you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, got to get down over some trees. We'll just feel this out and see how it looks. Oh my goodness, guys. We're gonna land the other way though. That was so good. Holy cow. There go the slow gear. Okay, gear coming out, flaps coming in. Camera crew, you good? I'm not gonna block you, am I?
No, you're good.
Okay. Going to the low point here. A little bit of throttle here. Let's keep in the throttle, keep it flying, Brian. Ooh, man, nasty wind shear there. Got to do a go around. Listening for hesitation and critically low alarm. The 6S has us taken care of. Let's go about 4 steps forward right now, please. Thank you, perfect. Another 2 steps forward, please. Okay, I'm gonna go around in the bowl this time. See if I can get my altitude down and get you guys a couple more low shots. Full landing flaps here on this. I'm gonna see if I can bring it in. Lots of rudder here, trying to avoid that wind shear out of the throttle. Getting that nose down and get on the ground, baby! Yes! Ow! Whew. That is some really hard snow, guys. As you can see, I was able to push back my berms. And for those of you who think that it's easy to avoid hitting berms, yes, just don't fly into them. But truthfully, that was a tough landing because I got it down quick and I got it down where I wanted it. But I'm fighting wind shear from here. It's coming right here and you can't see it, but you can see it in the way the plane responds, because every time I'd come up here, it'd get kicked like this. And you can see that windsock there is gonna tell you the tail. You see how it's pointed almost straight down the road, and this one is pointed almost like this. So we have 2 different wind directions there. And guess what this creates? Low pressure, and so does that hill, and so does that 35-foot elevation change.
Yeah.
And so what you get is this weird wind shear because all the stuff is working together to make my life harder. So that's why I like it when the wind is just like 20 degrees more, it'd be perfect. And then it just blows right through this opening. And it's gorgeous, but boy, what an amazing plane. Let's walk down there and look at it. I double gloved it, guys. Really trying to make sure we don't extend the circumstances. Oh, sorry. I had to double glove it with these nitro gloves because it is so dang cold.
I think it was 8 earlier, but it's getting dark.
Yeah.
So it's.
And I gotta say, guys, that plane handled the landing really well. I'm gonna come out of the flaps just so I don't accidentally forget and rip them off in the snow. But as you can see, the landing gear were fine. Oh no, are you kidding me? My prop broke? That is so annoying. Oh man, I must have just hit it just exactly perfect. You know what's ironic about this? I think I have another one. Because I think I have one for my P40, which is a 1.4, and I think it's like 1440. So I think it's an 11.8 like this. I can't read it now. 11.8. So we're gonna totally fix it. Okay. But either way, I don't think we're gonna get another flight because look at this gorgeous sunset. Let's just see if anything else got damaged. We'll also check our, here you go, 22.4 volts. Probably could have gone for a little bit. Looks like 323 feet. Guys, I gotta say, 400 feet disappears quick on bigger planes. So just be careful. Oh no, I lost my bomb.
Oh man.
That's actually a drop tank. I can glue that if I cared, but honestly, I'm probably gonna take that ordnance off anyway.
Yeah.
Because it makes it hard to hold the plane. And so normally that wouldn't be a big issue, but when you're presenting the planes for video, it's like, I try to hold it with one hand. It's very awkward. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, picking it up. Obviously our throttle cut is on. And as you can see, everything survived. We got everything here, everything here. We got this just ripped off because it hangs really low, folks. And then obviously I did break that one prop. Now, if you're ever in a pinch and you're out flying and you do happen to break one of these, the cool thing is you can take this apart in a matter of maybe 2 or 3 minutes, pull the other one off, and this thing will fly just fine on 2 blades. But it's not gonna look near as cool. So we are definitely gonna fix this. And what an amazing aircraft. I love the way this thing flew. I love the way it looks, but I don't love how terribly cold it is. It actually hurts my face right now. And so for that reason, guys, we're gonna ask you, smash the like button, click the bell for notifications, and subscribe if you haven't already, so you can see all the new and exciting content that we're coming out with, even in the middle of winter, for you on Brian Phillips RC. And we have so much more. Believe you me, it's coming like crazy. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we got here. P-47, beautiful 1.5 meter plane from FMS. And look at the canopy real quick. I do have my throttle cut on, by the way. Look at the details in there. Amazing, super detailed. We're gonna go over all that stuff and more in the Unbox Build radio setup. We are flying this on a 30-seat pack today. This is a Gen 2 5000 6S, but they do recommend 35C. We're gonna take one for the team and see if they're fine. I think they're gonna be okay. They do call it a 35C. This is an 80 amp Predator ESC in here, so it's very big. Beautiful prop. First flight, broke one of my blades, got it balanced up, should be ready to rock and roll. I just rolled off and I happened to hit some hard snow. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it's much better and you'll enjoy it with us, so stay tuned. So we have takeoff flaps deployed, and here goes nothing. P factor is very easy to regulate and control on this plane, which is something new and exciting. Gear going up. Out of the flaps altogether. We are in stabilized mode via the Reflex V2. This is a heavier P-47 than we've ever flown because it's also one of the biggest we've flown, but look how gorgeous that thing is. Going up into the throttle hard, over the sun. Just gonna barrel roll all the way up and come out the bull side. Are you good?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Takeoff flaps deployed. And as you can see with the Reflex V2, we have good stabilization, but with the wind, it's definitely getting jostled around. You can see the shadow there for context of speed and size. Full landing flaps coming out. I have deployment at only 80% of the 140%, I believe is what we ended up with on our radio setup in the actual servo settings, out of the flaps all the way into the throttle. We're gonna go right over those trees, out of the wash, up and to the left. So remember, when you get a big bird, you cover more ground quicker. Camera crew coming out on the runway quick. Okay, and something feels bad. The canopy is popped. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna try to lose the canopy. If not, I can just land, which is what we're gonna do instead. I think we're good. We're getting a little bit of roll tendency. Gear coming out, slowing it down. Camera crew's coming back to the middle of the driveway. We have a neighbor trying to take something out. Okay, we're gonna slow down. Camera crew, middle of the driveway here. Thank you, perfect. Doing some janking here to slow it down, and lost the canopy now, finally. So we're gonna pause and check it out. All right, so we picked up the canopy, and just kind of looking it over, there is, I don't know if that's damage or if that's just from putting it in and out, but it definitely looks okay. I don't know why that even came off. The magnet's strong. So I'm not sure if maybe one of the wire leads was interfering somehow, like right here. Let's push that down. We obviously have a manned aircraft that you and I can hear, but they probably can't hear on camera. So let's figure out what's going on with that. Got my tail held with my leg. Feels sturdy. Feels really sturdy. I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know if we caught a weird gust of wind or if there was some flex in the frame. Manned aircraft's about 2,000 feet, maybe 3,000. Yeah, they're straight up over us, so that's why it's so loud.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, real quick reminder, manned aircraft, always yield to manned aircraft. I don't care if you're in a FRIA or if you're in, you know, a Class A airspace, illegally flying, get out of the way of manned aircraft. They matter more than our beautiful models. But yeah, I don't know what the heck happened, so we're just gonna taxi down. We'll take off from the road, see kind of how things go. We got our wind on our side, 23.6 volts. You can see I don't have much deflection set up for my flaps. If it pops again, oh, it looks like my antenna got bumped, either when I picked it up or when I put it back down. So the antenna got bumped as well, dislodged. But I'm just curious about how that broke free.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I was doing anything too crazy. I was definitely doing some barrel rolls. All right, you're gonna go by the mailbox.
Okay.
This thing ground handles super fantastic, very wide wheelbase, makes this plane a joy to fly, and it's not scary to land. It's nothing like the 1.5 meter P-51 that we've done in the past. Okay, so takeoff flaps deployed, here we go. Getting that tail up, gonna bring it up to speed, out of the flaps, out of the gear. Guys, the first thing I noticed when I took off, okay, there's our timer for 5 minutes. Doesn't really mean much. We'll just keep an eye on the telemetry. I felt an adverse roll, okay? So once I felt that roll, I was like, yeah, something's not quite right. And so I think I was flying kind of down toward the house for a pass. And I could tell there was definitely a distinct roll tendency. And I said, I'm not inputting that, so something's happened. A little bit of rudder trim there. You see, I'm just kind of holding the ailerons just to replicate that same symptom. Okay, coming down. Camera crew's probably upset with me for that. Takeoff flaps coming in. Seem to be doing fine with the 30 seat back though. Okay, we're gonna yaw into this for a flat, medium speed pass, nice and low. Yeah, nothing going on there out of the ordinary. Okay, into the throttle, we got definitely a little bit of yaw correction that we have to do down the run of that. I feel like this plane could use a heavier battery. Dang, there was a lot of turbulence up there. Did you see that thing?
Yeah.
It just wanted to flip over. Okay, full landing flaps, we're gonna let it stall into this. Absolutely gorgeous, guys. Okay, out of the flaps, camera crew, let's go into the center of the driveway, of the approach. I wanna see if I can take a couple of these takeoffs and landings here. Okay, gear coming out, full landing flaps. Immediately, wind is at our left shoulder. Look at those slow landing gear. So cool. Gonna probably do a touch and go on this one. Getting some nasty bounces there. Wanna watch for the sign there. Going up, we're gonna do a shallow pass over the top of these trees, using the rudder to point that nose as I kind of make that maneuver, folks, if you weren't paying attention. Hard in the power there. Okay, getting into final, a little different angle this time. Full landing flaps as we make our final base leg turn. Yes, out of the full throttle, we are. Okay, here we are, we're flying crosswind. Very slight crosswind now. We'll just put it on the mains. And then we're just gonna turn that into a touch and go. We're gonna go the other direction this time. We're gonna go around this trees. And just to show you guys, this plane can do it and the wind is not calm. And the 30 seat doesn't seem to be bothering it. That's about 25% stick input, just so you guys know. Lots of elevator, a throw, and authority on this model. It doesn't need as much as you get. And I think that's why we get that really big pitch down moment. Okay, I am riding the throttle pretty hard. Probably need to get ready to final. That was a nice final. I liked the way that that felt. Okay, gear coming out into takeoff flaps, rolling at about 30 degrees. Inputting actually a little bit of down elevator, a little bit of up. Just kind of, we're gonna try to final it right to us if we can. Checking for traffic, we're clear. Then camera crew is gonna call it if she hears or sees it. Okay, just bringing it in, nice dainty pace. Okay, full landing flaps have been deployed after my base leg, or before I went into my base leg. Okay, just bring it down. Okay, now I was getting yanked quite a bit on that. I didn't want to end up in a snowbank, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go around. One thing you're gonna learn, guys, sometimes when you're flying a plane and the plane isn't doing what you want, you just gotta bail and get where you wanna be. And I can tell you one thing about this, you gotta carry a little bit of speed so you keep your rudder authority up. Camera crew, back 4 steps. I know you're gonna maybe block it with this mailbox, but just hopefully you can be Johnny on the spot with that.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Check for traffic, we're good. Okay, here we go. Full rudder authority. Okay, guys, you see what I'm doing? I'm janking that rudder. I feel like really, it reminds me a little bit of the way we had trouble getting the P-51 1.5 to go right down the runway, because this is our runway with the P-51. I can tell you this, that plane will do this runway because I can get it slowed down and hurry. But I am getting help from wind. I'm actually gonna back taxi and just show you one of my concerns on this model, and it's very easy to fix this, is that there's not quite enough rudder authority on the landings. Ironically, on the P factor for takeoff, which is usually where we run into problems with the P-51 or these type of aircraft, is actually gonna be on takeoff. We don't have enough to fix the disparity in P factor. I may need to run and grab that. Hold pause. Okay, guys, so what I was saying before we got sort of interrupted by that is that the plane has amazing characteristics for takeoff, but I just feel like to really get this thing to be comfortable on landing for me, I feel like we need to do one thing. Throttle cuts on. We need that to be in the inside hole instead of the outside hole, okay? What that's gonna do for you is, while you might need to kick up your expo on the rudder axis, which is not a big deal, that takes 10 seconds. When you come into land and you need to try to control that when your airspeed drops, you just don't have quite enough to overwhelm things like crown or a slight wind that gets kicked up. Now, we saw it on our first flight, which you guys may not have seen it yet, depending on how this goes together. We broke one prop blade, only one of 4. Shaft was straight as an arrow, and then the bomb, or excuse me, in this case, the drop tank actually ripped off the bottom because we hit that little bit of snow, because the ground clearance was about that high when you're on your mains. It's like that high off the ground. So if you got a little teeny bit of bank of snow, you're gonna hit that. Now, if you hit a little rock, you're gonna do the same thing and rip it off. So just word to the wise, maybe don't fly with the main drop tank unless you're flying from asphalt and you've got a wide runway. But I mean, it's not uncommon, especially with the Warbird. They used to do this because they couldn't see over the huge nose. It's like they got a big blind spot up here. So they would do this and they would watch, and then they would turn and they would do this, and they can look over the hood of the aircraft, if you will. And so when you see us taxiing and we're doing this pattern like this, that's exactly the way they would do it in real life, okay? Because they would do this so they could see what was going on the ground, okay? Now the problem is, you need, and with every single Warbird, or really any tail dragger for that matter, what happens is there is a point where you lose airspeed and you have to then depend on the tail touching down. There's a big enough disparity in geometry on this and a lot of Warbirds. You see how far inboard that tail wheel is?
Oh.
It's very easy to get into a ground loop because your lever is, your control is just in a different spot. It's very easy to control on the rudder. It's a little bit harder to control once you get that tail wheel down. Now, I'm not saying it's hard to control. It's just more a matter of the fact that we do have kind of a crosswind. It's going like this, and then it's going like that. And so just depending on when I'm touching down, I'm getting really good authority because I've got that thrust blown from the prop. But then as soon as I get out of the throttle, I'm just idle, and then that thing pretty much acts as a big brake, if you will. Then you're basically just sitting here and you're just like, you're wind vaning. And you don't have enough to really totally overwhelm it if you have wind vaning plus crosswind, wind vaning plus crosswind. And so that's one thing you need to think about. I think if we went to that inside hole, we would get just a little teeny bit more output, even though in the air it feels fine. And then also on takeoff, it feels fine, which is super phenomenal for a big, powerful 6S Warbird. I feel like the power is there and it's doing what it needs to do, where it needs to do it, and everything is good. But you know what I want to do? I think what we're going to do is camera crew and I are going to pause. We'll go ahead and, well, first of all, I'll show you our voltage. We're at 22.3 volts. which doesn't really mean a lot because honestly, these smart packs, they self-balance and everything. And the Gen 2s are a little bit quicker at it, which is why they tend to get a little warmer on the front end, right where those leads come out. So if you have a Gen 1 and you're wondering why maybe it doesn't quite perform as good as the Gen 2s in certain circumstances, it's because the Gen 2 have a little bit bigger balancing circuit. Okay, and if there's value to them, that's where it is. Not having a balance cord, in my opinion, in like 99% of the applications is actually a bad thing. I want it even though I'm not gonna use it. You can charge without it, but I want it so I can run my afterburner, so I can run my cheap El Cheapo voltage alarm or whatever. But I like the bigger balancing circuit in Gen 2. So I lean toward the Gen 2 in those applications. Now we also put the telemetry on this with the 8020T, and so we get that telemetry with the Reflex V2, which the auto leveling does work, but just remember, if you want it to fly level, you're gonna have to hold that tail up when it's actually first powered up. Otherwise, it's gonna sit on the table like this with the tail wheel, and that's the way it's gonna fly. Okay, so when you go into auto leveling, it's gonna try to fly like this, which if you're a new pilot and you don't know how to counter that, remember, new pilots tend to fly with way more power than they need, way more throttle than they need, and they don't tend to have such a huge problem with that. But I'm telling you, when you get out of the throttle and you're coming into land, and if you've got an attitude like this with a warbird like that, you are going to crash. You won't keep enough airspeed. You're gonna stall the aircraft with this angle of attack. You need to get, with nose being here, you need to get your nose down like that, and you need to fly the plane so you can keep moving it. Okay? Then when you come in, you don't really generally flare a warbird per se. You bring it in level and you run it on the mains, and then you bleed off inertia until your tail drops, and that's that vulnerable spot between where this wants to stall down off of the horizontal stabilizer and when the crosswinds try to kick you over. So that's all I can say. So what I want to do is, it's a beautiful day. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it's like literally 50 degrees warmer than it was the last time we filmed, which you guys may be seeing that at the beginning or the end, but whatever, you'll see it. Here's the thing. I'm gonna move that screw to the inside. I'm gonna move the ball link. I'm gonna see what type of additional play we can get, and we're gonna redo this thing. Stay tuned. All right, so we're inside now, and we were just talking about moving this in so we could get a little bit more rudder authority. And we also talked about increasing our expo just a little bit. So we're gonna click, go down to dual rates and expo. And we're gonna go to rudder. So our medium point on the rudder is gonna go to 20. The heavier point is gonna go to 40. And then the lighter point is gonna go to 10, and we're gonna start in the middle, okay? So the reason we only change the one point is because, or the one control channel would be because once we get this changed, we don't want that thing moving all the time. We just want it when we need it. And once we're on the ground and we've got that disparity between being flying on the mains and when it plops down, and then all of a sudden you're on the tail wheel. Well, it's not when you're on the tail wheel that's the problem, and it's not when you're just flying along. It's when you're in that intermediate stage where you go to slump back. For whatever reason, it always seems to want to ditch dive. And it could be a skill thing, obviously, that I need to work through as a pilot, but I think it's mostly gonna be largely resolved by this factor. Now, I can see that there is a servo that moves the tail wheel. It's directly linked in there if you want to show them inside of there. We have our throttle cut on, of course. See that, how there's a linkage? Can you see it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now show them on the rudder. So all we need to do is we're just gonna go from this one to that one. Okay, it's very simple, it's very basic. I'm gonna take a Phillips screwdriver, I think that's what we need. Yeah, Phillips. Now, if we have any issues with this, you can always go back. But I wanna pay attention to if this is centered, and if it's not centered, how far off is it? Is it worth the trouble to go in and do a mechanical trim adjustment? I don't know. We'll find out in about 30 seconds. Oh, that's a very small change.
Yeah.
Wait, I could just, okay, so I can just turn this in like one turn, okay? So there's one full turn. How do we look now? Oh man, that's hard to tell. One more. Except I barely any trim. So there's two full turns, and I don't even have to take the screw out. Sorry guys, if I'm blocking you with my head, that is pretty darn close.
That's better.
I think I'm gonna have to go one more half a turn in, and then I'm gonna take the screw out. Now I'm just gonna go one full more, because I don't wanna take the screw out. I feel like there's like a top and a bottom to that ball, and there might not be, but guys, I'm just gonna err on the safe side. There's like a flat on it maybe. Okay, so we've got that. Oh, that's like perfect. So 3 turns difference. That's pretty fine thread. Okay, so we'll just get that screwed in now. So folks, I gotta say, I wanna make sure that you're not misunderstanding what I'm saying about this plane, because when we make adjustments to brand new planes like this, a lot of times what we're doing is we're setting up for our environment. Doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have to do it in your environment, because if you have a big, wide, flat field with no trees anywhere near, you're not gonna have rotor off the top of the trees. You're not gonna have that ditch wind that you get that goes along the ditch, and especially when you've got crosswinds that are changing both directions and you're right on the center, but you've got this wiggle to it. You're not gonna be dealing with that. If you're landing in a huge wide runway for real airplanes and things like that, you may not have the same problem that we have. So keep that for what it's worth. Okay, now let's look at the movement. Okay, we don't seem to be binding anything, so I'm happy with that. We're obviously running a little bit more expo, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna throw another battery pack in here. And then also let's talk about what happened with our canopy. I honestly have no clue why that thing dislodged. That is a fair amount. You know what I bet it was? I bet when I put it on, I must not have ever actually got it. No, I don't know how I could not get it though.
I know.
Like, how could I not get it?
Though.
Also, that thing got knocked, probably in flight, because I think this thing was pulled up. I don't know, guys. I'm just gonna call it a fluke. There are some times that you have flukes. However, if you're in any doubt and you get one of these and you love it and you wanna make it more secure, throw a couple pieces of tape over here and over here, cut them, make them flush, and then when you put it in there, you're gonna get even more bite as you insert the canopy, okay? Now also, one other thing, we used a 30C pack on this. Again, throttle cuts tested because my elbow is right in the prop. Okay, and this is part of the reason why when we do our unbox build radio setup, I'm not like necessarily afraid of having a prop on the plane, because like, let's get real. Every time you fly it, you're gonna have the prop on. You're not gonna take off the prop every time you do something to a plane, okay? So that has been my number one argument. I know some of you guys disagree with me still, and that's fine. There's room for disagreement within the hobby, okay? If you've ever been to any flight field ever in the history of time, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're gonna pop this out. The 30C fits really nice in here, just full disclosure. I don't see any additional puffing from what I would have had before on this 30C pack. And what we're gonna put in instead, since we've got you guys here, we might as well just share this. You know what? Why don't I plug this back in and just show the people real quick. If we go to channel 1, we're just gonna let it initiate. Of course, this is the one I was just gonna bring out to fly. So once it initiates, I can go down. And you can see that the balance is close enough. Okay, so it immediately comes out of it. I just realized I never actually checked.
Oh.
So one thing you're gonna note immediately about the 50C is that it's shorter and it's fatter, okay? So for that reason, you might think, I'm gonna put it vertical. Don't think that. It won't fit. I already tried it. What happens is you hit the bottom of the plastic motor mount, okay? So what you have to do is go ahead and slide this in like a normal flat load. And if you have any issues getting your battery in because you get something that's wider, what you can do is you can actually bring something under it, and that will buy you a little teeny bit of space. I have not had to do that with this battery, but if I go up to the 100C pack, I fear I may need to do that. Very easy to load batteries this way. I'm usually a fan of this style if they work, but I must admit, of all the wonderful things on this plane, this is maybe something that didn't work as good as I'd like, and I've had this problem on a number of different planes. When I slide it in, I have to really work to get it in. So I'm just gonna show you guys this, because we show the good with the bad here on Brian Phillips RC, and we want you guys to get an idea of what you're really expecting on a given model, because these things are expensive, and we do understand that you're making sacrifices to pick one over the other. So if that's the difference between, see, just a little bit more friction than I would like. And admittedly, that was probably the easiest time I've ever had putting the battery in this plane. So I don't know if maybe I finally broke off 2 tabs and now the 2 tabs are gone, it goes in. But I haven't had any issues with the battery shifting. Now also, another note, and this is an important note. I've noticed that this plane could probably, I mean, we are spot on the CG. We are right in the middle with this 50C pack. I'm gonna show you one other trick, and I'm gonna follow this up here. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm gonna hold this level. Okay, so hopefully I remember to give you guys an option to see the auto leveling. Now wait for the full dance sequence. Come on. Come on now, you can do it. Why is it not dancing? There we go. Okay, so why did I do that, folks? Because I don't want it to fly like that. If you insist on flying with the auto leveling, we have set it up on this and we do share how to do it. We also have enough channels that I could separate out my rudder from my tail dragger, okay? Now, I'm not saying you should do that. I am suggesting that it's possible with our current configuration. I just don't necessarily see a huge benefit in it on this particular plane. There are planes that need more of it. Also, ground handling on this is good, except it is kind of a wide turn, but we have wide footprint, so I'm happy with that. And to put this thing on its mains and fly it down the runway is pretty easy. So I like that. I like being able to pull it up, and I like being able to put it down without having problems, okay? And then, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the flight, but our flap mode, gosh, where is flap mode? There it is, flap system. I have it at 80, but that's because I have increased my servo setup, okay, to actually allow for more deflection, okay? So in the down, it's at 135, okay? So don't let that confuse you. You'll see if you follow along in the Unbox Build radio setup. And we want you to know that here on Brian Phillips RC, we try to help you get the most out of this stuff without dumping a ton of money in them. Sure, of course, you have to pick a receiver, so we're gonna help you guys pick the one that we know about, how to help you with. But at the end of the day, we're not gonna say, yeah, you can make this better by replacing every servo on the plane. That's just ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's an expensive plane. They use good servos on them. And so we're gonna show you the way they are out of the box, and then maybe we'll make some recommendations as we go. But in this case, that shouldn't cost you but a few seconds of your free time. So also with this prop, I had mentioned that I hit a prop into the ground. I did actually have to balance this prop because I took it from a 3-bladed prop, didn't have the stickers, I had to reuse the stickers. And back here you can see I've got this big buff marks all the way along it. That's because I had to balance this on my prop balancer, and it made a world of difference. So we had a short clip of doing basically one circuit and landing because I was like, that sounds terrible. And it didn't even occur to me that these props may not be balanced. Now, when you take it apart, you can do it another way if you don't have a prop balancer. First of all, it's not that hard to make a prop balancer. You just use a bolt that fits through there, and you just balance it on 2 surfaces, and whichever way it hangs is the way that you need to take off material. And then once it doesn't spin anymore, either to the left or to the right, then you know which one it is. And you just guess and check until you get it right, and then it hangs to the bottom. Now, what I was gonna say is when you take off that material, you can either take off this material or you can add material over here. It's always better to take off a little bit of material, you lighten the plane's load, and you fix the problem 2 at once. But you can also take this and you can mark 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can use a scale and measure it if you have a precision scale. Okay, so for those of you that are weighing small bags that are really small, you know, so you can, you know, for whatever reason, you might need to do that. If you have those scales, then you can measure these things. I'm a scale guy, for God's sake. Okay, so give me a break. All right, we'll be with you in just a second. Okay, so throttle cuts off. Here we go, guys. A little more rudder authority. Oh yeah, look how easy that is to drive right down the runway. Gear going up. Takeoff flaps still deployed. 5050C, 6S here. Man, look at that thing getting kicked around by the wind. Going up for a stall turn. Oh yeah, way better. Here we go. Full speed pass. Get her flying. Boy, she's getting kicked around like crazy right now. So we do have a 5-minute timer set up on this plane, but I think you could probably fly for conservatively 8 to 10 minutes with a 5,000 milliamp pack. Going up and over. Keep hearing a helicopter, but I can't tell where it's coming from. You guys see those lines in the sky? That's because everybody that's going anywhere flies over our house from the entire country. Yeah, there's definitely a helicopter. Yep. I need to yield the right of way somehow. Let's go down to the bowl. Okay. They are very loud, but they're very far away still. Can you tell, camera crew?
He's behind you.
All right, good. Yep, we're getting down below the tree line. That's the best we can do right now without crashing. Just keeping it nice and low, guys, within about 20, 30 feet of the ground.
He's going to the...
Oh yeah, I just haven't spotted him yet.
South.
Okay, to the south? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, camera crew.
Yeah.
Okay, take off flaps. Gosh, a lot of manned aircraft today. You guys see that shadow? Looks so sweet. Oh, that's a big heli. Big fat one. You can tell.
It's a...
Chinook?
Yeah.
Oh, so sweet.
He's to the... south of the.
Okay. Look at that thing getting pushed. Guys, I gotta say, this plane, it puts out nicely, and I love the way it looks. It definitely is fighting the wind. Let's fly up there so we can be in the foreground. Let's hurry quick. Come on, P-47, let's get moving. Here we go. All right, get out of my space. Yes, there it is, guys. The Chinook in the background. So cool. I'm just going in circles. Okay, so did everybody get it? All right, we got the Chinook in the shot. We're good. So yeah, this is basically flyover territory for a reason. But we are in Class G airspace, working on the FRIA status, so should be good to go. All right, full landing flaps, camera crew about 4 steps back. Perfect, right there, thank you. Okay, into the throttle about 15%, 20%, 30. Dirty pass for you, coming out of the gear. Oh, that's so gorgeous. Have to get into the speed a little bit. Those landing flaps are huge. Man, I can't wait to share this on a dead calm day. It's gonna be so gorgeous. You remember how we used to do Expo more on the down than we did on the up? Do you remember that back in the day?
Really?
Yep. I remember doing that back in the day.
I believe you.
Let's go about 4 steps forward there, camera crew. I need a spot. Nope, right there. Thank you. Okay, going in the bowl, and then up. Gotta love it, guys. Up against that blue sky. Okay, full landing gear coming out, or landing gear coming out, takeoff flaps deployed. We're gonna take a jank right here. Into the throttle very light, a little bit of slip, 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 a little bit of slip. Okay, into the throttle, pulling it straight. Oh yeah, baby, so beautiful. So folks, this thing is just a flying piece of artwork, and I hope you get an opportunity to get one. I feel like the rudder authority is way better now. Up and over, barrel rolling. Oh, so gorgeous. I don't know if I want to take it into the bowl like this, but let's try it. Okay, right overhead. Going to the left. We don't do a lot of left turns in this direction here. This is kind of an irregular configuration for us because of the way the wind comes down the hills. That is so gorgeous with those gear door. Okay, into the takeoff flaps here, about 70% throttle, 100% throttle. That's our timer. Timer says probably a good time to start getting ready to land. I'm saying we could go for a couple more minutes, but I am riding the throttle more, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into landing configuration. Gear coming out, we have takeoff flaps deployed. Just doing a nice wide loop. We're way the heck out there. Okay, we're gonna do this low point here, camera crew. Okay. Wind is right at our back, so we're flying directly into the wind right now. Maybe a little bit from the left still. So we're gonna go around this tall tree and then duck down, camera crew. You good? There you go, right there. If you're safe, stay safe. Thank you. Into the throttle. Guys, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. Oh, those oleos bounced me. It was gorgeous. A little bit of rudder action there to keep that altitude the same. A little bit of rudder the other direction. Full landing flaps. Here we go. We're gonna see if we can get it down quick. You're slow on this plane, love it. Nice slip there, using the body to slow it down a lot. There it is, guys.
Ooh, that was good.
Good rudder authority. Now we're going downhill, so I just gotta walk so I can see. Don't wanna roll off the edge here. As you can see, very good authority using up what God gave us, which is a huge, long, curved runway. So as you can see, guys, this plane is sweet. That one difference, I mean, the holes are so close together. If you stick it in the right hole, it's pretty exciting. So anyway, on that high note, I'm gonna say, stick it in the wrong hole if you can get away with it. That plane is awesome.
Yeah.
It is really good. I think you should get one, but I also think you should understand something. It is not a beginner plane. We didn't even show them auto leveling. Oh, let's check the voltage. Hey, why don't we go down, and we do have a vario on this, by the way. We don't use it, but we have a vario on it. 22.4. Let's go down let's do one circuit and we'll show them the auto leveling, just because I feel like I held the tail up this time and I never showed them that.
Oh, that's
And so if it crashes in a million pieces, I'll be heartbroken. But at the same time, it wouldn't be the first or last time I crash something in a million pieces here on Brian Phillips RC, because we try not to cut out any of the exciting stuff that you really want to see on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because after all, who would want to see a beautiful plane fly again? I would.
Yes.
Just to be clear. But that's okay. You guys get a kick out of it, so we keep doing it. And then as you can see, our glaciers are melting, which is kind of nice. Finally. It's been a long, cold winter, and we're not done with it, but we're getting closer. All right, guys. Okay, getting my eyeglasses on. Here we go. Okay, take off flaps. Give it a little thrust. Okay. Now, right there. You good? Mm-hmm. All right, guys, we're gonna take off. Getting onto the mains. There it is. And you guys may notice me jank it to the right as I do these maneuvers. That is purposeful, going through the sun. I'm really sorry, closing one eye like the sailors. Garr! Okay, here we go. Whoops, those are the gear. Okay, so here's auto leveling. As you can see, about 50% throttle. Take off flaps just so I can go slow. And you'll notice that it's nice and level. It's got a little bit of an upward angle of attack. Okay, now out of auto leveling. Out of the flaps. Let's do one beautiful landing here. Here we go. Ruddering it over. Get the thing flying. Camera crew, you good?
Yep.
You're gonna go about 4 steps forward if you're good. There you go, right there. Now, why did I give up on that one?
I don't know, why did you?
Because I was a long ways away.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so here we go. We'll do a low pass with the wind, which is a little bit more crazy, but here we go. Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna go up for a stall turn here. Take off flaps, stall turn. That was a terrible stall turn, but the wind must have been aggressively screwing with me. Okay, you guys can see I'm definitely fighting the wind now. Look at that thing get wind vaned. Into my takeoff flaps. You guys see what I'm talking about? You don't want to go in that ditch, folks. Mm-hmm. That ditch is steep. Okay, all right, so we're gonna pause and run and grab that. Seeing it back. That was a pretty good flight. I felt good about it. Obviously, the auto leveling is not like probably as good as what you might expect to get if you were to run safe an AS3X on an AR8260 or AR 8360, yeah. Sorry, T, as opposed to the AR 8020T. Well, but what a beautiful plane though.
And if you're gonna run safe, then you can do a 630 or a 631.
Yeah, you could do a 637, that's right. You wouldn't need the 8 channels at that point. So folks, gotta say, I love the way this plane flies. It's definitely gonna be a higher class than, I think, than the E-flite 1.5 P-51 at this moment. And all I've gotta say is, even though I had some minor struggles with keeping the tail from being super squirrely when I put it down, I feel like the retractable tail assembly on this is pretty rock solid. It's more the rudder output in our case. And yeah, we do have a little bit of crosswind. It's not crazy. I mean, some of you guys are gonna fly in higher wind than that. So even on a flat, level playing ground, you got nice wide runway. You might wanna do what I did to that rudder. It was a super easy modification. It took us, what, like 5 minutes maybe? Yeah. And that included walking inside and everything. So absolutely gorgeous plane. Love the way it flies. Maybe could use a little bit bigger battery, which sounds funny because it's not like we're out of battery. We're at 22.1 volts right now, okay? So all I've gotta say is, good job, FMS. Love the details, love the LEDs, love the flaps. I mean, I love that it's all Metal Gear servoed. I love the landing gear, love the oleos, love the spring loaded. And we got to show that to you today because every time I landed with those rock hard concrete style titanium tires, like we get on these RC aircraft, the springs made up for it and they did a world of difference. And I gotta say that, I'm gonna say kudos to FMS for doing that. It's expensive to put those springs in there, and it probably, honestly, like development costs and stuff are probably higher to make those tires soft. But I'd rather have soft tires and suspension, to be honest, because then you get a nice touchdown, even though you're not a very good pilot. Just saying. So anyway, if you're like me and you're not that good a pilot, then you can do some pneumatic tires and it would give you a little bit better resolve on your landings. And I think the thing looks amazing.
It's gorgeous.
It's one of the prettiest big warbirds we have. The 1.5 meter, and I like that it's got an actual warbird color livery. I love that the green and the silver and the black are used. We got the stars and bars, all that stuff, period specific. I love the red, white, and blue tail. It's really cool. Sometimes we get weird off the wall schemes and I'm not crazy about that. But I know that sometimes the reason that these manufacturers are doing it is because they've like, hey, we've done 40 of these, let's change it up a little bit. Well, the problem is, you know, like people don't really like change from what I've heard. Well, that's why I'm flying a plane from World War II, you know. So anyway, but I love this plane. It's a sweet plane. Now, granted, I'm glad we have an F-35, you know, because it's, you know, gonna be able to shoot down more advanced,
yes, right,
sophisticated enemies. But still, I actually like this plane better. Just saying. You know, Air Force and Navy and all that. But yeah, so this thing is awesome. It's great. If you guys want to buy it, I would definitely check out the links in the video description below. It may be a little bit more than you're used to in terms of what you got to control and handle for a warbird. I got to say 1.2s are where it's at. If you're a new pilot, you get the 1.2. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to want the 1.2. It's got the balance between the big flight and the small flight. The small flights, you got to fly them too fast. You don't always get flaps. The bigger flight, and by the way, you got just as much tied up in your radio gear, but you don't in the battery, okay? But then you get into these big ones that take 6S, 5,000 milliamp hour batteries. You're spending $100 to $200 on those suckers, and they are just as long, if not less, than what you're gonna get on a 1200 millimeter. And so we don't say that lightly, because this is an amazing warbird, but you do have to know how to fly, and you have to be, I mean, and I would say, honestly, for me, this is probably, you know, like close to, you know, the top of my skill set, realistically, because I can do it reasonably well, but like I can't do it all day like in my sleep. Like I could fly that 1.2 meter P-51 that we mentioned in the unbox build radio setup all day in my sleep, and I can do it really well, and I can get it down and not go off the runway every time. Now that I say that, maybe I would go off the runway. But either way, let's just say, guys, this plane takes a little bit more skill than a 1.2, but so does most of the 1.5s. And I know that runs contrary to what most people say, bigger planes tend to fly easier. That is not necessarily true. It depends on what type of sophisticated flight stabilizer you're using, A, and B, what type of power to weight ratio you get, B, and C, wing loading, okay? The 1.2s are oftentimes designed for a lesser sophisticated, newer pilot, and so you get an easier flight performance. But you still get good high-speed passes. You still get good draggy landings with flap deployment. You still get beautiful LEDs on a lot of them. And if you're not getting LEDs on those ones, maybe pick the other ones that do have LEDs. But all I got to say, guys, is I still love this plane. And so you come here for commentary, and you come here for flight, and you come here for crashes and things like that. I am an expert in crashing. I know crashing. I'm an expert in crashing. That's all I'm gonna say. But yes, this plane is sweet. I would definitely highly recommend it. What else can I say about it that I haven't already said? I don't like putting the tail feathers, suck to put in. The horizontal stabilizers, you can see the crush marks from here. That was a super big disappointment. And you'll see in the unbox build radio set, they're just hard to press in. And as a result, you necessarily kind of have to crush your foam. That's not good. So if you want to avoid that, one thing you can do is you can take your fingers and just squish the horizontal stabilizer before you put it in. It's going to break your heart to do it, but you can do it there and you won't have to do it on the end. So that's the only thing I can tell you. And then also make sure you use the right screws on those. Off camera, we cheated on one thing, so I'm just gonna come forward. We tried to use the screws that were for the spinner on the tail because that's customarily what we use in this size class, but I was wrong, it was the black screws, but you'll see that in the video uncut. It's just gonna go bang, bang, bang. But Megan and I made the executive decision that she was embarrassed of how bad I screwed that one up. So that's why I'm telling you about it now.
Great, good job.
Yeah,
thanks.
So we get still embarrassed.
Yep.
But anyway, so guys, we do this for you. We try to tell as much of the truth so we don't confuse the heck out of you. If we do something really super confusing, we'll cut it out. Which usually only happens in really sophisticated builds. This was not sophisticated. It was actually a super easy build, except for the tail feathers. Everything else went really smooth. Yeah. We did have to do some guess and check on the wing joiner rods, which I thought was weird. Yeah, because there's a long and a short.
Yeah, and it was like opposite of what we
thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
yeah.
And what we tell you in the unbox.
Right, and there is a lot of dihedral on this wing, so it'll make sense when you put it together. but the wings sticking at the side of the fuse. Anyway, just watch the unbox build radio setup. And by the way, that is a separate video. When we have playlists on Brian Phillips RC, we always release like 1 minute before the unbox build radio setup and then the maiden flight. And the reason we do that is because in your feeds, if you're clicking the bell for notifications, which you should if you haven't already, obviously subscribe, click the bell for notifications, smash the like button. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna see the unbox build and then it's gonna hopefully populate with the flight, because that's what most people wanna see anyway.
Right.
And we know that only a select few of you wanna see the unbox build radio setup, but if you wanna watch it in order, that's fine. The problem is, like, we say things that we're not sure about in the unbox build radio setup, and then we fly it and we find out we were right or wrong. So it really doesn't hurt if you watch the flight first. But full disclosure, we do that on purpose because over the years of doing this, we have hundreds and hundreds of videos that are unbox build radio setup and maiden flights, and people rarely want to watch that whole thing. So we started putting the maidens at the front, and then people were like, why don't you split it up so we can like move the cursor easier to get to a spot that we want to rewatch, because our videos are long. And so we have tried to respond in kind when people have asked us to do things, especially with the Rode wireless mics too. You guys complained for years about it, and I bucked the horse so bad on that one. I did not want to do it, and finally we did it, and the Rode wireless 2 have been a godsend. They have worked good. We have two mics, which is really handy, and we don't have lav mics that we have to wire up to our back or back pocket or side pocket or, you know, whatever, and having that worked really good for a while until it didn't work. And we only got like less than a year out of those things. We've been using it for a couple of years now.
Yeah, we have these.
But they're expensive. So if you guys run a YouTube channel, you're looking for some good audio, I'm telling you right now, don't even think about it. It's huge, the difference in quality.
It is.
Get these, you'll want them. And it's super easy to use, but you do have to have a USB-C to insert to your phone. Or do we also have a mic jack on there? Yeah, there is a mic jack as well.
Yeah, whatever you hook up to your phone.
Or your DSLR, if you're using that. Of course, we're like just big cheapskates, so we use a Galaxy S21 Ultra.
Yep, that's my
okay. I said it right.
We've only ever filmed on phones for
but
people that ask.
We might try a DSLR. You just wait.
If somebody wants to give us a suggestion,
yes, suggestions down below.
leave them in the comments. I'll look them up.
Yeah, because seriously, my camera crew is amazing. Her name is Maiden Phillips. I married her many years ago. She was also my wife. You may have noticed that from my marriage to her. But if it were any secret, and if this inside joke offends you so deeply, well, there's lots of other channels that are out there for you.
Just a joke.
Yeah, it's just a hilarious joke.
He really never ever calls me that any other time.
Ever. It's just totally, yeah. Anyway, so it's totally an inside joke that anybody that runs a YouTube channel should get, because there is no camera crew, there is no support. Look at the guy with the boom over here.
Me.
No, he doesn't exist.
He doesn't exist. See,
it's just us. It's just us, and our kids, you know, are like in the basement, and they help with some like little minor things once in a while. But really, it's just us.
It's just us.
Yep, we don't have, it's not like flight tests where we got like 17 guys working full-time jobs here. So, but we do respect a lot of you guys out there doing different things on your channels. You're doing a great job. We don't want to take anything away from anybody else here. We just love aviation, RC aviation, especially fixed wing flight. I mean, that's what we do best. But the thing is, the RC cars and trucks and things like that are super fun, and we hope you don't beat us over the head too much with that, because I was doing it a long time before I was doing this.
And our kids love it.
And our kids love it.
It's easier for them to do that.
Yep, and it's easier for most people to pick that up, because really at the end of the day, the most immersive, exciting, enjoyable, rewarding flight experience or RC experience is flight. And whether that's helicopters, quads, or airplanes, you pick it. You pick your poison. I'm still gonna tell you right now, fixed wing is the best analog, because the helicopters are not quite there and the quads are not quite there. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of real side, you know, full scale quads, but there are now. But there's a lot of airplanes, and the airplanes are the closest analog you're gonna get to a radio controlled experience like real. And I love the third person perspective. I don't really like FPV, but also the rules prohibit us from sharing FPV footage. So in case you guys were wondering, we get that question about, I don't know, once or twice a month. We used to get it more often. So if you like FPV, good for you. I'm glad you guys do that. Not trying to tell anybody what to do or not do, but it's just not my thing. I love watching the plane fly. It's like my own little air show, except I get to control it, which is really, really satisfying. So anyway, guys, hopefully that gives you more information than you thought you needed. And the biggest bit of information we want to ask for you is, if you like this footage, if you want to support us, and especially if you, you know, like coming back and watching this stuff, buy these things when you see them in the video description below. You help support us financially. Smash the like button, click the bell for notifications after you've subscribed. And then if you want to see more, you can go to brianphillipsrc.com, and it will direct you and help you sort through our literally thousands of videos. We keep them up all the time, so you can go back and see how much worse I was as a pilot. and how much less skilled we were in other areas, which is kind of cool. It's neat to see that progression. If you like our house, and we get comments once in a while about our house, we did a little build video on that. So if you guys are curious about that.
Build series, yep.
Yep. So there's all sorts of things. And if you guys have questions, try to leave them in the comments. We'll do our very best to get to them. But I can't commit to getting to 100% of comments anymore because I literally can't keep up. If you want to be in front of us a little bit easier, Patreon does give you a little bit of an edge because we just happen to see notifications for those. And special thanks to our Patreons that are supporting us monthly. It puts a smile on our face. And there's also PayPal down below. If you got 20 bucks, oh, and then there's super thanks. We got a $50 super thanks. I can retire now.
It was like super.
It was like a super duper super thanks. So that was amazing. So thank you, whoever you were. We should have probably paid attention to the name so we could have said it. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but YouTube changed to handles. And so like Brian Phillips RC has a handle because we had it. And then when you reach certain thresholds, you get certain like things unlocked. It's stupid. But anyway, Brian Phillips RC shows up as Brian Phillips RC. But if you don't have a handle picked, it's really hard for me to know your name. So I used to try to address people by name in comments, but now like I'm not sure what your name is. So it's like RC Doohickey 12345. It's like I can't say like Jake, congratulations. I have to go by the thumbnail image, and it is really hard to keep them straight because like we all love the same stuff. So we have like, you know, pictures of airplanes, pictures of people in bikinis, picture of people in bikinis next to airplanes, and it's like they all look the same. So I don't know what to do. So anyway, if you guys address me by name, because my name is Brian, there's a big bird up there. It's not an eagle. Oh, I thought it was an eagle. No. Is that? No, that is totally a bald eagle.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that is a bald eagle.
Is it?
Is it a bald eagle? That is totally a bald eagle.
It is.
So guys, if you didn't already know this, we were hearing bald eagles while we were filming today. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bald eagle. That's pretty cool. So we have bald eagles out here, which is really cool. And I don't know if you guys have bald eagles where you live, but we have where we live. So
it's just cool to see them. They're gigantic.
They are humongous.
Huge.
That bird is twice and a half times or maybe 3 times as wide as that plane. It is gigantic. It would lay down and go almost as wide as a driveway on the main driveway. They are crazy. And when they're sitting eating roadkill on the road and you drive up to them and they're like, whoa, they spread out the wings. And boy, if they ever crap on your windshield, you're stopping. You're gonna have to stop and wipe it off so much. So anyway, on that high note.
That was good ending.
Yeah, that's right.
Time to wrap it up.
Stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC.